On Valentine's Day, I waited at the restaurant for hours holding the gift I bought him. But when he finally arrived, he was holding hands with another woman, and that night I realized I was just a temporary chapter in his. My name is Sarah, and I destroyed my own on Valentine's Day. I'd been with Marcus for 2 years. 2 years of what I thought was building towards something real. He was the kind of guy who remembered which coffee shop I liked, who would drive 40 minutes just to bring me soup when I was sick, the kind of guy who made me feel like maybe, for once, I'd found someone who actually saw me. But Marcus had this thing about romance. He wasn't the flowers and dinner type. He said grand gestures were shallow, that real love was in the everyday moments. I agreed. I told I was mature enough to not need Valentine's Day nonsense. Except I wasn't. 3 weeks before Valentine's Day, my coworker Jess started talking about what her boyfriend had planned. Dinner reservations at that expensive place downtown. Weekend getaway to the mountains, a custom necklace with her initials, and something in my chest just twisted. Marcus doesn't really do Valentine's Day, I said, trying to sound casual. We're more low-key. Jess gave me that look. Know the one. Half pity, half judgment. Sarah, honey. If a man wants to celebrate, he will. It's not about the money. It's about the effort. That night, I brought it to Marcus. Casual. Just wondering if maybe we could do something small this year. Know how I feel about manufactured holidays. Why do I need Hallmark to tell me when to show I love? He my forehead. Every day with his Valentine's Day. It should have been sweet. It should have been enough. But Jess's words kept echoing. If a man wants to celebrate, he will. So I decided to surprise him instead. I'd show him how good it could be. I made reservations at Romano's, the Italian place where we'd had our first official date. I bought him a watch, not expensive but thoughtful, engraved with, "Time means nothing when I'm with." Cheesy maybe, but it felt right. Valentine's Day arrived gray and cold. I spent 2 hours getting ready, choosing the red dress he'd complimented months ago, doing my makeup twice cause my hands were shaking with excitement. I got to Romano's at 7 sharp, clutching the little wrap box like a lifeline. The hostess seated me at a corner table with candles and rose petals. Perfect. 7:15 traffic, probably 7:30. Maybe he got held at work. 7:45. Can I texted? Hair! 8 o'clock. The waiter asked if I wanted to order an appetizer while I waited. I ordered bread, something to keep my hands busy. 8:30. Hey, where are? Getting worried. 8:45. My phone buzzed. Finally. Sorry, running late. Be there soon. 9 o'clock. The table next to me finished their meal. The one after that ordered dessert. I watched couples lean across tables, sharing tiramisu and quiet laughs. I scrolled through Instagram. Everyone was posting their Valentine's photos, hearts and flowers and, so lucky, captions. 9:30. The bread basket was empty. I'd shredded 3 napkins. The waiter kept circling back with increasing concern. Would like to order something else while wait. He'll be here soon, I said. My voice sounded foreign. 10 o'clock. The restaurant was clearing out. I'd moved from worry to angry to something approaching panic. What if something had happened? What if he was? I called. Straight to voicemail. 10:15. I was gathering my purse, trying to figure out whether to go to his apartment or the hospital, when I saw him through the window. Marcus, walking down the sidewalk, laughing at something. Relief flooded through me. He was okay. He was here. Late, but here, and we could still salvage this. I stood smoothing my dress, grabbing his gift. Then I saw her. A woman with long dark hair and a bright smile, walking beside him, close beside him. Their fingers intertwined like they'd been holding hands forever. My brain couldn't process it at first. This had to be wrong. Maybe it was his sister. Maybe it was a friend who needed help. Maybe there was some explanation that would make sense. But then he stopped walking. Right there on the sidewalk, her visible through the restaurant window like some cruel theater performance. He turned to face her, and she looked at him with eyes that sparkled even from a distance. He touched her cheek. She rose on her tiptoes. And they, not a friend, not a family. A soft, lingering "I love" that I recognized because he used to me like that. The gift box slipped from my numb fingers and hit the floor. The sound seemed to echo through the mostly empty restaurant. A few remaining diners turned to look. I didn't care. I watched Marcus, my Marcus, wrap his arms around this stranger and hold her close. Watched her laugh and bury her face in his shoulder. Watched him pull out his phone and take a selfie with her, both of them grinning. The same phone that had been sending me, running late, texts for the past 3 hours. They walked past the restaurant window. Neither of them looked in. Neither of them saw me standing there in my red dress, holding the ruins of my surprise, watching my entire world crumble through plate glass. The waiter appeared beside me. "Miss, is everything all right?" I couldn't answer. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Marcus had stood me, on Valentine's Day, at the restaurant where we'd had our first date. He'd left me sitting there for 3 hours making excuses, lying about being late, while he was out with another woman. And from the way they looked at each other, this wasn't new. This wasn't a sudden mistake. This was established. This was real. Which meant everything I thought I knew about my was a lie. I picked the gift box with shaking hands. Time means nothing when I'm with. The irony was so sharp. "Miss," the waiter said again. "Can I get anything?" I looked at him. This stranger who'd watched me wait alone for hours, who'd seen my hope slowly dissolve into humiliation. His face was kind but embarrassed, like he'd witnessed something he wasn't supposed to see. "Just the check," I whispered. As I walked to my car, phone buzzing with a text from Marcus. "Hey, sorry, work ran super late. Rain check on tonight. I'm exhausted." I realized something that made my stomach drop even further. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was his secret. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them kissing on the sidewalk. Saw her laughing at whatever he whispered in her ear. Saw him taking that selfie with the same smile he used to give me. By 6 a.m., I'd made a decision that would destroy everything I had left. I was gonna find her. It took exactly 12 minutes of social media stalking to get her name. Marcus had posted that selfie on his Instagram story. Tagged location Romano's, the same restaurant where I'd waited for him. The audacity made my hands shake. But there she was in the photo, radiant, happy, completely unaware that somewhere across town another woman was falling apart. Her name was Elena Rodriguez. Her profile was public. A marketing coordinator at some startup downtown. 26 years old. Originally from San Diego. Loved hiking and yoga and those aesthetic coffee photos that get thousands of likes. And apparently she loved my boyfriend. I scrolled through months of her posts, looking for clues I'd missed. There, a shadowy male figure in a hiking photo from December, when Marcus told me he was spending the weekend with his college buddies. Another photo from January, just hands holding coffee cups, hers and someone else's. Perfect Sunday morning, she'd captioned it. That was the Sunday he'd cancelled our brunch plans because he was fighting off a migraine. Every photo was another lie. Every caption was another. But the worst part, she had no idea I existed. Her posts were innocent, sweet even. A woman genuinely happy with the man she was dating. She wasn't trying to me. She didn't know there was a me-do. That realization should have made me Marcus more. Instead it did something worse. It made me her. By 8 a.m. I was parked outside her apartment building. I'd found her address through a combination of social media, detective work and property records. The rational part of my brain was screaming that this was insane, that I needed to go home and figure out my next steps like an. I ignored that voice. I'd been rational with Marcus. I'd been understanding about his quirks and his need for space and his dislike of manufactured holidays. Look where being rational had gotten me. I waited, and at 9:17 a.m., she came out. She was smaller than she looked in photos. Prettier too, in that effortless way that comes from good genes and expensive skincare. She wore yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked like someone heading to a coffee shop to work on her laptop. She looked happy. She looked like everything I wasn't. I followed her. 3 blocks to a little cafe I'd never seen before. I watched her order what looked like an oat milk latte and settle into a corner table with her MacBook. She worked for maybe 20 minutes before her phone buzzed. Her face lit when she saw the screen. She answered with a smile I could see from across the room. "Good morning, handsome," she said loud enough for half the cafe to hear. "Did sleep well?" A pause. She laughed at something he said. "I had the most amazing time last night. That restaurant was perfect. How did find it?" Another pause. "Well, definitely made for missing our first Valentine's Day last year." Missing their first Valentine's Day last year. Which meant this had been going on for over a year. While I was planning our future, they were building their own. "I love too," she said. And the way she said it, soft and sure and completely unguarded, made something inside my chest. She hung and went back to her laptop, but she kept smiling. The kind of smile that comes from being genuinely, completely happy. I hated her for it. Hated her for having what I thought was mine. Hated her for being innocent in all this while I crumbled. Hated her for being beautiful and successful and loved. And that's when I made the decision that would everything. I walked over to her table. "Elena." She looked confused but polite. "Yes, I'm Sarah. I think we need to talk about Marcus." The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to find words that didn't exist. "I don't understand," she finally whispered. "I'm his girlfriend. Or I was his girlfriend. I'm honestly not sure anymore." I pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. "How long have been seeing him?" "This is..." She shook her head. "This can't be happening. Must have the wrong person." "Marcus Chen. Works in software development. Has that scar on his left eyebrow from when he crashed his bike as a kid. Drives a blue Honda Civic. Lives in the apartment complex on 5th Street. With each detail, she seemed to shrink further into herself. By the time I finished, tears were rolling down her cheeks. "Oh God," she breathed. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know," and I believed her. The devastation on her face was too raw to be. She was just as much a victim as I was. But I was in too much pain to care about being fair. "14 months, she whispered. "We've been together for 14 months. He said he'd never felt this way about anyone before. He said I was his person. 14 months. While I was falling deeper in love with him, he was falling deeper in love with someone else. He brought me to Romano's last night," she continued, her voice breaking. "Said it was special to him. That he'd been saving it for the right person. Romano's. Our place. The restaurant where we'd had our first date was special to him, all right. Special enough to recreate with his real girlfriend." "Did he ever mention me?" I asked. "Ever say anything about another woman in his?" She shook her head miserably. "Never. He said he'd had relationships before but nothing serious. Nothing that lasted." A sob escaped her. "Was I the other woman this whole time?" "I don't know what were," I said, and it came out harsher than I intended. "But I know what I was. I was the who waited 3 hours at Romano's last night while 2 were playing out our first date all over again." She covered her face with her hands. "I feel sick. This is insane. This doesn't happen to people like me. I don't date married men. I don't break relationships. I'm not that person." "Neither was I said. "Until yesterday." We sat in silence for a moment, 2 women whose lives had just imploded in a coffee shop on a Thursday morning. "What do we do now?" she'd asked. And that's when the idea hit me. Vindictive, completely rational idea that would make everything so much worse. "Who make him choose?" I said. "Right. We'll both text him. Right now. Tell him we want to see him tonight. Same place, same time. Let him show and find us both there." "Sarah, I don't think. He's been lying to both of us for over a year. Playing house with while stringing me along. Don't want to see what he does when he can't hide anymore." She stared at me like I'd suggested we his apartment down. Maybe I had, metaphorically. "I can't." She said, I can't ambush him. That's not who I am. Who got a boyfriend with another girlfriend? I snapped. Maybe it's time to try being someone else. I pulled out my phone and started typing. Hey, free tonight. Want to grab dinner at Romano's around 8, miss? I showed her the screen. Turn. She looked at my phone, then at her own, then back at me. I could see the exact moment she made the decision that would change everything. Her fingers moved across her screen. She turned it toward me. Dinner at Romano's tonight at 8, last night was perfect. Can't wait to see again. We sent the messages at the same time, both got immediate responses, absolutely, can't wait, wouldn't miss it, love. He'd told her he loved her. He'd told me he couldn't wait. He'd confirmed the same dinner with both of us at the same restaurant. Even caught in the act, Marcus was still playing games. 8 o'clock. I said, standing. Alina nodded numbly. 8 o'clock. I walked away and left her sitting there, staring at her phone like it was that hadn't gone off yet. Because in a way, it was. I arrived at Romano's at 7:45 p.m. 15 minutes early. I wanted to watch everything unfold. I wanted to see his face when his carefully constructed lies came crashing down. I chose a table with a clear view of the entrance, the same corner where I'd waited alone the night before, surrounded by rose petals and false hope. The irony wasn't lost on me. Alina walked in at 7:52. She'd changed from her casual coffee shop clothes into a black dress and heels. Her makeup was perfect, but I could see the puffiness around her eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide. She'd been crying. She spotted me immediately and walked over with the determined stride of someone who'd spent all day psyching herself for this moment. I almost didn't come, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. But did. I keep thinking this is insane, that there has to be some explanation. There is an explanation, I said. He's a liar. At exactly 8:00 p.m. Marcus walked through the door. He was dressed in the navy button-down I'd bought him for his birthday. The one I told him brought out his eyes. His hair was still slightly damp from a shower. He looked confident, happy even. A man walking into a romantic dinner with his girlfriend. He scanned the restaurant looking for Alina. His eyes passed right over me at first, then snapped back when recognition hit. I watched his face cycle through confusion, panic, and finally, a desperate kind of calculation. He stood frozen in the doorway for at least 10 seconds like his brain was trying to process an impossible equation. Then he walked over to our table. Sarah, he said. His voice carefully neutral. What are doing here? Having dinner. I replied, remember Alina, don't other girlfriend. He looked between us like we were two bombs about to. Which in a way we were. This is. He ran his hand through his hair. This isn't what it looks like. Elena laughed, but it came out broken and bitter. What does it look like, Marcus? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like been living a double. Elena, let me explain. Explain what? I him off. Explain how've been dating both of us for over a year. Explain how brought her to our restaurant and recreated our first date. Explain how left me waiting here alone last night while we're with her. Other diners were starting to stare. The hostess kept glancing over nervously. Marcus sat down heavily, looking like a man who'd just watched his entire world collapse. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he said quietly. How was it supposed to happen? Alina's voice was shaking. We're just gonna keep lying to both of us forever. I was gonna figure it out. I just needed more time. Time for what? I demanded. Time to decide which one of us wanted to keep. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence was answer enough. Oh my God, Elena whispered. We're shopping. We're keeping both of us around while decided which model liked better. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I leaned forward. Enlighten us. Explain how told me loved me while we're building a relationship with her. Explain how told her she was person while we're still sleeping in my bed. I do love, he said, and for a moment I couldn't tell which one of us he was talking to. Both of. That's the problem. Alina stood so fast her chair scraped against the floor. Love doesn't work that way, Marcus. Don't get to love two people and keep them both in the dark about each other. Elena, please sit down. We can work this out. Work what out? Her voice was getting louder. Want me to share? Want us to take turns? The entire restaurant was watching now. Conversations had stopped. Servers were clustering near the kitchen, whispering among themselves. Maid Arcus said desperately. But I can fix this. We can all move past this. Move past this. I stood too. Think this is something we move past. Destroyed two relationships. Marcus broke both of us. There's no fixing this. Sarah. Know what we have is real. What we had. I corrected. Past tense. Because the Marcus I loved wouldn't have done this. The Marcus I loved wouldn't have let me sit here alone last night while he was with someone else. The Marcus I loved wouldn't have looked me in the eye for months while living a lie. Alina was crying now, but she didn't sit down. 14 months, she said. 14 months of I introduced to my parents. I changed jobs to be closer to apartment. I turned down opportunities because I thought we were building something together. We were building something? We were building nothing? She shouted. It was all. Every conversation, every date, every time said loved me, it was all contaminated by lies. The manager appeared at our table. Folks, I'm gonna have to ask to keep it down or we're leaving, I said. I had 20 on the table and grabbed my purse. Alina was already walking toward the door. I followed her, leaving Marcus sitting alone at the table where he'd planned to have dinner with one of us. Maybe both of us. Who knows what his twisted logic had been. Outside, Alina was pacing back and forth on the sidewalk, her breath coming in sharp puffs in the cold air. I feel so, she said. So incredibly. How did I not see it? How did I not know? Because he's a professional, I said. This wasn't his first time doing this. She stopped pacing and looked at me. What do you mean? Think about it. Nobody gets this good at managing two relationships by accident. The scheduling, the lies, the separate social media accounts. He's done this before. The realization hit her like a physical Think there have been others. I think we weren't the first. And if we hadn't found each other, we wouldn't have been the last. My phone buzzed. Marcus, please don't do this. We can work it out. I choose. I showed Alina the screen. Want to guess what phone says? She checked, her face went white. He sent me the same message. Even in crisis, Marcus was still playing both sides. Still couldn't commit to a choice. Still thought he could manipulate his way out of the consequences. I'm going to destroy him, Elena said quietly. What? I'm going to make sure everyone knows what he did. His friends, his family, his coworkers. I'm going to post screenshots of our conversations. I'm going to make sure every woman in this city knows exactly what kind of man Marcus Chen is. Elena. He humiliated us. He stole months of our lives. He made us feel crazy and insecure and not good enough. And the whole time he was the problem. I'm not letting him do this to anyone else. She was right. He deserved consequences. He deserved to face the mess he'd made instead of slinking away to find his next victims. So I helped her. We spent the next 3 hours at a coffee shop, crafting the perfect social media post, screenshots of his lies, photos of us together at the restaurant, a timeline of his deception. We tagged everyone we could find, his friends, his coworkers, his gym buddies. By midnight, the post had 50 comments. By morning, it had been shared 300 times. Marcus lost his job 2 days later. Apparently, his company had a strict policy about conduct that reflected poorly on the organization. Having dating go viral for all the wrong reasons qualified. His friends stopped talking to him. His family was mortified. Women he'd matched with on dating apps started posting their own stories about his lies and manipulation. We'd done it. We'd made him face consequences. We'd warned other women. We'd gotten our revenge. And I'd never felt emptier in my. Because revenge, it turns out, doesn't heal betrayal. It just creates more wreckage. Elena and I tried to stay friends at first, bonded by shared trauma and righteous anger. But every time I looked at her, I saw his hands in her hair. Every time she looked at me, she saw the woman who'd helped orchestrate the public destruction of a man she'd loved. We stopped talking after 3 weeks. I moved apartments, changed jobs, started therapy, tried to rebuild into someone who could trust again, love again, be vulnerable again. It's been 3 months now. 3 months since that Valentine's Day dinner that destroyed everything. And I'm finally starting to understand the real cost of what happened. It wasn't just that Marcus betrayed us. It wasn't just that he lied and manipulated and treated us like objects to be collected. It's that in the end I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone who could follow a stranger. Someone who could orchestrate public humiliation. Someone who chose revenge over healing. Marcus made me a victim, but I made into something worse. I made into him. The last time I saw Alina was 2 weeks ago, across the street from that same coffee shop where we'd first met. She was with a new guy, laughing at something he'd whispered in her ear. She looked happy. Cautious maybe, but happy. She saw me too. Our eyes met for just a moment across the busy street. Then she took her new boyfriend's hand and walked away without acknowledging me. Because I wasn't part of her healing story. I was part of what she was healing from. I don't blame her. I was part of what she was healing from. Marcus texts me sometimes. Apologies and explanations and pleas for forgiveness. I don't respond. There's nothing left to say. The watch I bought him. Time means nothing when I'm with. He sent it back last week with a note. I'm sorry, I yours. I had away without reading the rest of what he'd written. Some apologies come too late to matter. I'm writing this at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep. Because the weight of what I did still sits on my chest like a stone. Because I need other women to understand what I learned too late. When someone betrays, have two choices: can become bitter, or can become better. I chose bitter, and it poisoned everything I touched, including. The real tragedy isn't that Marcus was a liar and a cheater. Men like that have always existed, and women have been surviving them for centuries. The real tragedy is that I let his betrayal turn me into someone I couldn't recognize in the mirror, someone who chose destruction over healing, someone who confused revenge with justice and cruelty with strength. In the end, I didn't just lose a boyfriend. I lost, and that's the only wound that's proven impossible to heal.